It was about 1.5 years ago. I got a beer with my friend who's building the space, and he had been doing this space across the street for a while, and I was like, hey, I've been growing mushrooms for about a couple years in a basement up in Westchester, and I was like, I have this crazy idea. I want to build a shipping container mushroom farm on your site. And we had a couple beers, and he was just like, yeah, let's do this. It's going to be awesome. And so at first it was just kind of like a full-on straw bag culture, which is a type of growing. The whole entire container was this fruiting chamber. And through that process, we kind of developed a lot of different growing methods and a lot of different techniques in doing it. And so we've been sort of condensing all this technology to be in these individual racks. And so in here, the racks aren't in here, but I can show little pieces of technology that we're gonna do, and you can kind of get the idea. And so it's a little hacker kind of thing in there, but I think you'll get the gist of what we're doing. And then I'll explain, the whole mushroom process as well. So we have to kind of group around this thing. Let's see, if you guys can come over here, because when I open this, so, has anyone ever been to a mushroom farm before I go into this? So, I think you've all been to a lot of lettuce stuff at this point. Mushrooms do a completely different process than plants. They don't do photosynthesis, they like a little water, they like substrate, but it's a completely different relationship. But it still is a controlled environment. It's just a different kind of situation. Mushrooms take three different climates, or 3 different situations. They have a lab experience, which is kind of on agar dishes and making sure you have the right strain and all that stuff. Then they have incubation, which is generally high CO2. Temperature can fluctuate a little bit, but it's basically the colonization, and then there's the fruiting stage. So we'll go through all of this. So I don't have a lab here, so we can't necessarily explain that, but at that point, you can kind of take a little chunk off of a mushroom, culture it in an agar plate, and then you kind of create mycelium. And so how mushrooms work, this is an older spawn bag, so it's sort of fruited in there. That's why I'm showing you guys. All the good stuff I'm not gonna bring out for you guys, but mushrooms, the edible part is actually the fruiting body of the mycelium. The living organism is this mat that occurs underground or in a log or wherever. It's the mycorrhizae. And there's thousands and thousands upon thousands of varieties of mushrooms. They do a bunch of different kinds of relationships, but we're growing, they're called saprotrophic mushrooms. They're decomposers. Most cultivation is of saprotrophic mushrooms. When you go into more of the forage kinds, you get mycorrhizal mushrooms, which are like truffles, chanterelles. There's sort of ways of cultivating in the wild, but it generally takes 10, 20 years to do a farm like that, and you don't really know if you've got anything. And so it's a scary kind of business model doing that. But most of the time, you're using decomposers.